Let's bring in Donald Trump Jr., Executive Vice President of the Trump Organization and President Trump's son. Good morning to you, Don.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We're doing well. I know that your Twitter account, you posted that hydroxychloroquine video, and your account was suspended.
Yep.
So what's your reaction to what happened yesterday with these big tech CEOs?
Well, listen, there's no question that there's bias. Ainsley, if you're religious, if you're pro-life, if you're pro-Second Amendment, you watch your metrics and you watch them get destroyed. Conservatives and people who believe in conservative values have been targeted by these people who have no problem allowing a platform of free speech to the Ayatollah, to communist China, to people who are committing genocide. That's not a problem. But I post a video that's just an alternate thought, a different viewpoint by actual doctors. Doctors, not some kooks. These were a dozen doctors on the Capitol steps with a congressman, and that was spreading misinformation. But when the Chinese Communist government literally spread disinformation about coronavirus, they literally said, Twitter said, that is not a violation of their rules. The Chinese government spreading disinformation is not a violation of their rules, but me saying, hey, this is interesting. It's very different than the narrative that they've been cramming down our throats. Maybe you should watch it and make up your own minds. That was enough to get thrown off the platform.
And Twitter tells us they're an American company, Don. But you mentioned China. You also briefly mentioned Iran. Well, Twitter didn't find time to go to Capitol Hill. I think they probably knew they would get the most scrutiny of any organization. But a representative for Twitter did tell the Israeli Congress that Iran's supreme leader is not in violation of Twitter rules, but your father, the president, is. Take a listen to this.
You have recently started flagging the tweets of President Trump. Why have you not flagged the tweets of Iran's Ayatollah Khamenei, who has literally called for the genocide of Israel and Jewish people?
So we have an approach to world leaders that presently say that direct interactions with fellow public figures, comments on political issues of the day, or foreign policy saber-rattling on military economic issues are generally not in violation
calling
of
for
our
genocide
Twitter rules.
is okay, but commenting on politics is not, just so we understand. I just want to fine-tune the question. Calling for genocide on Twitter is okay, but commenting on political situations in certain countries is not okay?
If a world leader violates our rules, but it is a clear interest in keeping that up on the service, we may place it behind a notice that provides some more context.
So, Don, it seems like Twitter is America first. It's just blame America first, and the rest of the world gets a pass.
Yeah, I mean, it's truly disgusting. I mean, and again, you don't have to be a genius to see it. I see what they've done to my analytics. Every time I, push a button, I know what it's going to do. I do enough of this stuff, and, my numbers, my retweets, my likes, they're cut in half or even in third compared to what I was probably doing 6 months ago. You see that this is a ramp up for an election. But more importantly, you hear that response. How insane is this? I mean, there really is a word for what these people are full of. I just can't say it on the air, and it's time to end it. Republicans have to wake up also because they're not even aware most of the time. Their staffers are online doing these things. The average Republican in Congress has no idea what's actually happening on these platforms. And so they don't even realize, A, what's going on, and B, how important it is for their base, who is being totally suppressed, their free speech wiped away, while these companies get a lot of protections from the government. And that's the key. If they're getting these liability protections, these companies are getting probably the equivalent of billions of dollars of protections from lawsuits, from this, then they can't act as publishers and decide what the American people will see based on their opinions.
See, Don, there's two things. I actually believe both Republicans and Democrats are alarmed about the power for different reasons of those behemoths that were there yesterday. But there needs to be some action before November 3rd. It's no good to rant to people who understand what you're going through. Somehow, they got to get into their algorithm and change things. And we seem to be saying the same thing for the last 3 years. Meanwhile, the president has got to fight for Texas. It's pretty close. Loses Texas, Republicans are not going to win for a generation. And there he was tapping into exactly what fuels Texas, and that's oil and gas. He believes that if Joe Biden's elected president, we'll go back into the Paris Accord and eventually fracking's gone. Although Joe Biden says, fracking's fine with me. What are we to believe?
Well, it's not what he said in the past, first and foremost. But if you look at the sort of Green New Deal in another name only, Joe Biden on his website is basically saying, hey, we're going all to clean energy. We're getting rid of fossil fuels. We're doing this all in the next few years. I think it was by 2030 that all of this stuff was gone. That would destroy the economy in Texas, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Ohio. There's numerous states that are getting the benefits of being able to do this. And as Americans, the reality is we're still going to be reliant on those natural resources from other countries. Why not do it better, cleaner, more environmentally friendly, while also employing Americans, putting them to work, generating something for the economy? I mean, this is the notion of what Donald Trump did over the last 4 years. Cut the nonsense regulations, did things responsibly, allowed the free markets to work, and that's why you had the greatest economy in the history of modern America because of those policies. Joe Biden doesn't know where he is 50% of the time, Pete. Joe Biden is a puppet of the left. You can see that with this, Biden-Sanders joint unity communist manifesto plan. It's really scary because they're going to send America into the dark ages.
So you wrote this op-ed on foxnews.com, and it's titled, Biden Wouldn't Reduce Rioting and Crime. He's controlled by the left-wing puppet masters. So when he does say he's for something, do you think that it doesn't matter what his opinions are, he's controlled by the other people, by the progressives in the party, and he's going to do whatever they ask him to do?
100%. Listen, you see the videos of him. He can't get to a podium. He can't answer a question with 10 people. You would think that if you were a D.C. swamp creature, Ainsley, you'd be able to talk to a group of 10 to 20 people without a teleprompter. He's not able to do that. So the media is trying to do what they do best, which is shill for the Democrats by running Joe Biden as a moderate. You'll hear he's a moderate. You'll hear he's a moderate. But all you have to do is actually look at the positions he's taken. These are on his websites. It's by far the most radical agenda in modern history. It's not even questioned. It's on his website. But the media is going to try to get him the best of both worlds. They're going to try to run him as a moderate to people who may be watching this station and others. And then they're going to let him run as a radical to those who have lost their minds in America. The reality is he hasn't come out against defund the police. He's all for the integration of the suburbs with the big cities so that you have, high volume zonings that would destroy the American suburbs. These are not things that we think he's going to do, Ainsley. These are things that are literally on his website, and that's just the beginning of it. Free health care for illegal immigrants. Free. I'd love that myself. I'd love free health care, but I pay for it. Okay? Free housing for criminals coming out of prison. It seems like an incentive to create crime. The list goes on and on. It's insanity. But again, the media will do what the big tech companies are trying to do. They will try to cover, they will try to shave off some of the message so it's not getting out there, so it doesn't have the same efficacy when it gets to the people. And they are all in this together working for the Democrats. It's not even pretend anymore. They're just doing it.
Yeah, and you saw a bit of a campaign. It looked a little like a campaign yesterday, but everything's going to be so different than any campaign that we've seen. So we'll see where this goes, because the president's got to find some way to get Joe Biden out of his basement regularly, and maybe that's closing the gap in the polls. Which
Can I ask about that? How are they going to handle the debates?
There's no incentive for him to come out of his basement. He does better when America doesn't see him. When America doesn't see him forget where he is every other time, where America doesn't see him forget who's his wife and who's his sister, forget the office that he's running for, need someone to guide him through a crowd, cut him off in an interview. Joe Biden, this is his dream and the Democrats' dream, because you can cover up who Joe Biden is. I actually, when I started looking at it at the beginning of quarantine, I had 4 months. I actually wrote a second book about it called Liberal Privilege, because if you look into the history of Joe Biden, what you see there is not what you're being sold today. And that's the hypocrisy of the media and the left. It's absolutely disgusting, and people really have to inform themselves before November.
Yeah, this will be a contrast election, no doubt. Don Jr., thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.